Hey guys, welcome back to Heat Soak, the 90s and 2000s car culture podcast. I'm Chris. This is KT. We're going to be jamming on some topics today and have some fun. KT, what are we talking about today, man?
Yeah, Chris. So today we are going to be talking about car culture and car culture specifically in the 90s and 2000s.
Nice.
What do you think about that?
Oh man, that's one of my favorite topics. I think car culture has always been like a staple of American ideals and values, to be honest with you, man. There's nothing more amazing than that. It speaks about the arts, it speaks about what it is, and we get to talk about our favorite subject right now,
Yeah.
cars.
So,
So let's
I
jump
mean,
in, man.
yeah, getting into it. Tell me about it. 90s, 2000s, tuner culture. What comes to mind? What are some things that
Oh,
come to mind there?
things that come to mind, man. Man, we could speak about the crazy decals. You could speak about one of my favorites, the underglow.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
like, and that's recently coming back now. Funny enough, because I see more cars having that underglow.
hmm
But I don't think they understand that it wasn't LEDs for us. It was actually like glass
Oh
neon.
yeah,
It
for
was
sure.
like garage lights underneath our car.
Yep.
So that was actually the ones that I like. Let's see. What about you? What comes to mind when you think about that stuff, man?
Oh man, there's a lot of things in that era. So you mentioned it, underglow, sound systems, big
Yeah.
thumping sound
Where you
systems,
heard they were
DVDs
every
back there, monitors,
every
screens.
parent heard you coming before you
Mhm.
turned the corner to pick up their daughter. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Body kits were ridiculous
My
back then.
favorite body kid. So that's what I'm talking about.
It was just the culture of having showy cars. And I think we talked about it off camera, but it kind of related to personality. It
That
was your way to represent you.
Absolutely. Like everyone has their own personality when it comes to the cars. We talked about it a couple episodes ago, where everyone has their own style. Big rims, nice interior, doesn't care about the outside.
Mhm.
Motor is the fastest thing you've seen since Tuesday, and the outside looks like a rust bucket. But it's each character, each person's, excuse me, specific character inside of their car, and that's going to be what I think culture is, and it's people enjoying that, seeing the efforts and the wins other people made, and working on that from there.
Yeah, I love it. The expression of the individual.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
let's get into something that you said earlier, underglow. I
Ooh.
personally love underglow, so let's get into
Okay,
that one.
all right. Underglow favorite color. All right, what you got to go with?
Ne- Neon green,
Ah, dude, neon blue. Come
neon
on,
blue.
it's
All
like
right, all
neon
right.
blue. Come on. Here's my reasoning, because clearly, Brian O'Connor had neon blue under the silver skyline of the Fast and
Okay.
Furious. But what I hated about it was that every time you saw neon blue you always saw it on a silver car back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it was always a crappy Subaru, and it made me mad.
So many silver cars in the 90s. The color palette back then, though surprisingly, they had a lot of decent colors back then.
Yeah, they did. They had
Some
like,
oranges.
Renaissance reds. They
Yeah.
had some stuff like that. And no hate to the, Subaru culture. Subaru blue is a clearly iconic color. I'll give you guys that.
Was it World Rally Blue? I think
I
they
think it's
actually call it.
World Rally Blue. Got see now you're yeah, this is why it's
Oh, I
run.
wanted
This
I
is why
wanted
it's
an
always run.
'05
Yeah.
STI with that exact color, but maybe
Uh,
one day.
okay, all right, gotcha. You're one of the ones. I'll just make sure I mark it down for next time.
But let's get back to Underglow.
Yeah,
All
for
right.
sure.
So Underglow, Underglow actually started in the late '80s.
Gotcha.
It became popular sort of in the '90s and especially into the 2000s, where the Fast and Furious, and you started getting into like Need for Speed Underground, like
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
really hyped it up.
My favorite thing to
Um,
do is change it up, yeah.
yeah, but I personally love Underglow. But from a technical side of things, back then, Underglow wasn't the easiest thing to install. They were
Mhm.
actually like neon tubes that went
Yeah.
under your car,
Yeah, for
and good
sure.
luck driving over a bump or
Oh,
rocks
dude.
or anything and breaking those tubes.
It's like a glass break in a restaurant. Anytime you heard that sound at a car meet, you knew exactly what happened.
Yeah. You hope it doesn't leave glass
Uh,
and your tire dries
tire
over it,
drives
and
over yeah.
I know a lot of us don't necessarily care, and I shouldn't say this, but the environmental factors out there.
You're
Um
right. Yeah, down here,
It's Florida, so yeah.
Yeah, the gators ate it and just became, caimans or something like that.
But
Like
that was sort of the, beginnings of underglow.
yeah, for sure.
Fast forward, underglow evolved. Nowadays we have LED strips, which
Yes,
tend to be flexible too, so
correct.
they don't break as much. They're more water
Yeah.
resistant when you're driving around with water underneath your car.
See, I think about and you're right, and, the technology's definitely come a little bit forward, and I don't think but being subtle back then with underglow wasn't the goal. I think visibility
Oh,
was.
for
Like
sure, yeah. You wanted to be the guy who was seen, like,
yeah.
from 3 blocks away.
It's like the best way to turn a parked car into a spotlight. Like, you pull up, you hit the switch, people came by, and multicolor like, if you had multicolors under the car, you were, the bee's knees. You
Oh,
were
yeah.
everything that every car guy wanted to be at that point.
Yeah, well, today with LED technology, you can get, like, rainbows, you can strobing effects, like, all those
Mhm,
different sort of effects, which back then, it was very, very difficult to do. You'd have to have multiple tubes under your
mhm.
car. There's just a lot more coordination and from a, like, mechanical side of things, figuring out,
Yeah.
"How do I get power to this
You're right.
thing?"
How am I gonna wire it in? Where am I gonna drill through to really
Exactly.
run this thing and go
Yeah.
from there? Yeah, and of course, some people, as we know, had to add that extra battery in the back.
Yeah.
It's like through the amplifier and the
Mhm.
crack,
Well,
the
you
fun
gotta deal with the sound system
yeah,
draining some of that
al
power too.
always the fun stuff. But you were saying the stuff about the new LEDs. What's changed? I mean, what really has it now? So they're flexible and
Oh,
stuff like
yeah,
that?
from a technology standpoint, they are much smaller,
Yeah,
so
I
it's a
agree.
lot easier to actually install them underneath your car, or you've probably seen them. They have them inside your car where you can have
Mm,
LEDs, like, within your dash and have
mhm.
that illumination effect on the inside.
Yeah,
So they're very much more versatile nowadays. The other thing is power requirements. LEDs use so much less power compared to those old, like, neon tubes, so it's much easier to get the wiring to them because the wires are much smaller nowadays.
yes, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and from a reliability standpoint, the technology itself is much more reliable and more robust too. So we talked about it a little bit, but this this light is going underneath your car, and most cars, you're like a foot or less from the actual pavement,
Exactly.
rocks kicking up,
Mhm.
water splashing, all of that stuff. Having LED lights nowadays, it's a luxury. It's kind of like it's protecting you in a
Correct.
way too, because
Yep.
now you can kind of be seen from wherever.
Yeah, and a lot of motorcycles use it
Yeah.
nowadays. What's funny is this was like the culture standpoint, right? So coming from back then, we'd watch these guys pull up, be like, that is, some people it was loved by some, hated by others. It was some people called it ricing it out, like
Oh yeah.
and really hated it, especially you down here, you'd get moisture in it just because of condensation. So like
Mm-hmm.
some of the bulbs would fail and they
Yep.
weren't cheap back
Oh
then.
yeah.
Like, so it was like, it was just funny watching that come by. But also, I do remember specifically pulling up to meets, and these guys had it, and it was such a ticket magnet.
Oh
When
yeah.
they pulled out of the meets, man, it's
Mm-hmm.
like it doesn't matter if it was a Civic that had a 1.6 in it, or just something that literally had the slowest car, had underglows, would roll right out of the lot. Immediately the red and blues would
Yeah.
start turning up,
Yep.
and everyone, of course, at the meet's like, "Oh," like, doing the point and everything like that, but it's funny how technology evolved, right? And we have this view of underglows now, but, for example, I think of today coming from, like, 90s and 2000s to today, right? 2026, we're looking at it, where, like, it's stock on some of the Escalade doors,
Oh yeah.
like,
Mhm.
some of the footwells are seeing it on the inside. So did we develop that in our generation? Or is that something that, like, you think they were like, "Oh, this was actually a good idea," all of these new colors, all of these lights on the inside.
Mhm.
I think it's the technology came through and all of the car guys who were at those meets started actually building some of these cars and
Yeah.
getting involved in it, and they were like, "Hey, it'd be a good idea.
Oh.
Let's put some lights by the footwells and
Mhm.
let's make it look cool. Let's make it customizable." So, so some old guys like, "What do you mean? Like, how can you do that? The car is for driving." And they're like, "No, no, no. The car is for culture."
It
Like,
it goes back to our original saying that it's about an expression of you, right?
yeah,
As the person, as the driver, it's your own personal, expression, and we're doing it through lights. We're doing it
absolutely.
through colored lights in this case.
Yeah, yep, yep.
So, get your favorite color on there, whatever you want. If you wanna flash your underglow while you're driving past some cops, that's on you.
It's true.
Um, but
Very true.
but I love underglow. Did you personally have underglow on any of your cars?
No, I was the opposite side of that thing. I liked seeing it because I liked seeing the personality. I just felt like I didn't have enough confidence in myself in cars back then. And I'm
Fair
being
fair
honest,
enough.
like Underglow was like the confidence in light form. So it's like,
Yeah.
so like I knew my car wasn't as fast as I wanted it to be. Yeah, it could handle what it needed to handle, but was it the best? I was like, nah, not really. Like, do I want to show off the inside? No, my floorboard was missing.
Yeah. Now you got your
like
underglow
I'm
coming
working on
inside.
something
Yeah.
else here. Do I really want? If I got underglow on the outside, I'd have underglow on the inside
Yep.
unintentionally. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
so that's kind of why I didn't have it. What about you?
You know, I always thought it was ricey at
We
first,
all made mistakes. It's
and for those of you that don't
no,
know,
we all made mistakes.
we used the term ricer a lot back then.
We still use it now. We
Ok
still.
so, if anybody doesn't know what a ricer is, would you care to explain?
Oh my God. I mean, I've heard it called many different things. Clapped out, ricer, riceroni. I've seen it every day. Really loud, really slow,
Super
really
obnoxious,
super obnoxious.
typically a JDM
Yeah,
car.
of course it always had to be a Honda. Like if you got an Acura, you got a slight pass because it was a little bit better. But there's always a Civic, always an Accord, maybe
Mhm.
even a CRX. You know, you
Yeah.
CRV even in some cases that was lowered, but we're talking loud exhaust, a bass that was way too powerful for the car. Everyone knows what a ricer is. If you don't know what a ricer is, go home, sit down in the dark, Google it, and understand you're probably one of 40 people who haven't heard what a riced out car is. But for those guys that do know, and no judgment, we know a ricer when we see one. You can hear it. You know what it is. That's what a riced out
Well,
car is.
to your original question, I've never had underglow because I thought it was very ricer at first. But as I've gotten older and I've developed a certain appreciation for that culture,
Okay.
that
Okay.
era, I'm like all about it now.
Every car that you build now has oh my God. What's the color you're gonna put on this bad boy?
Oh man, so my favorite color is green, but
Yeah.
I don't know if green would really do it for this guy right
I think you
here.
could rock green with it. I think
Maybe.
you know what? We're gonna do it everywhere though. Wheel wells.
Well,
We're gonna
with LEDs we can change the color,
yeah,
so we'll get some nice heat soaked
there you go.
official
Some
colors
heat
going.
soaked official. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then what we'll do is we'll do what the trucks are doing now. We're gonna put the LED in the wheel wells so that way you
Oh
can change
yeah.
them. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
make sure you do that. I'm gonna surprise him. Maybe get like a light, those lights that spin around the fans with the images.
Yeah.
It'll be a Hello Kitty one, and I'll put it on your front. Oh, we'll start making it fun. But listen, man, Underglow, yeah, hands down. If you didn't see the Underglow, if you weren't at a car meet, if you didn't see, any of those big wings and stuff like that, Underglow is absolutely a part of 90s and 2000s car culture. It is what it was. We understood it when we saw it, but when we saw it in the Fast and the Furious,
Oh yeah.
dude, it was the bee's knees. It was what everybody wanted to be. Everyone wanted to be like Suki with the pink Data 2000.
Mhm.
Pink underglow. Brian's, R34 Skyline. Of course I wanted one. You kidding me? I wouldn't have cared what people judged me if I had one of those. You saw the Supra with the green. You saw, the RX-7 with the red. Everyone matched the paint color, and it was a movement,
Oh
and it
yeah.
was something I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. And you mentioned it a couple seconds ago, big wings. So, I think I know what your favorite topic is.
And I'm not talking about B Dubs or what we call Buffalo Wild Wings. We're not talking about chicken wings, baby. We are talking about body kits. What do you think?
Body kits, man, that for me, body kits, it doesn't really do it for me. So,
Really?
no, it doesn't really do it for me. And I know there's some really good body kits out there, but for me, like I kinda like the classic look,
Okay.
the look that the car sort of came with. Now, yeah, there are a couple out there that are really nice, but part of it is, like, the work involved with putting a body kit on, the fit and the finish. It's tough, but tell me about body kits. How did
Man,
this come into play
so
in that
hold on, I
era?
gotta ask. You mean that a big old spoiler, a big wing doesn't go on a front wheel drive vehicle and push as much downforce on it as possible? So I mean, all right, like was that your style? You don't think it goes on it, or do you think
That
it
was a
does?
little ricey, you know?
Oh, a little
So, a
ricey
little
is all I'm
ricey.
dog, that was boiled rice from the beginning, dog. Anything listen, I get the back end off the window spoiler for one that, but I will never get a spoiler on a front wheel. Like those are for real time track cars if you're really gonna need it. But I mean, if we're gonna talk about wings and body kits, man, let's actually talk about aerodynamics.
Yeah.
So we know that aerodynamics is the study of how air actually moves around solid objects. So of course we're driving these, 4,000 pound, 3,000 pound vehicles, and we have this correlation between aerodynamics and actual weight reduction. But aerodynamics is where these big wings, these body kits come into play the most. I mean, in simpler terms, it's the science of how air flows around these
Mhm.
things. So if I can make air flow either basically underneath the car to the side of the car, push the car down more
Yeah.
on a rear wheel drive, I get more grip. I get more grip. I get more torque. I get more torque. I get more what?
Horsepower.
Horsepower, baby. Like, but in all fairness, shape did matter back then. I agree with you in one part. I hated putting them on. But
Yes.
after I was done and they were bonded and painted and sanded for the thousandth and a half time, I think some of them look really good. Now, even when we started getting into cars that had active aero, it was one of those things where you saw, like, on the rear wheel drives, the all wheel drives, the oversized rear wings.
Mhm.
I think it looked fantastic if it had an actual method of working for the car.
Yeah,
If
that's the key.
Exactly, but if it didn't have any effect on the car and it was just for looks, the aggressive front bumpers, the side skirts, the wide rear ends, like that, it was race inspired. They
Yeah.
used all of this aero in, all of the racing, the formula. We saw different changes in Formula One. We saw movements in actual racing itself. Like it depended on how the shape and the body, everything had a factor that played into it. But what did they take over in the car culture? Stock wasn't really respected.
Yeah, that's true, especially in that time.
And it's one of those times where bigger spoiler, bigger bumpers, bigger look faster. For the people who were just learning about cars back then, like we
Mhm.
didn't know this. Like we were like, that car is fast because that bumper looks way more aggressive than the other
Yeah.
one. Yeah, that bumper added 100 horsepower off the bat.
And
And
again, it goes back to personality, right?
correct,
So if
correct.
you see like 50 Civics driving around a day in stock form, it's
Yeah,
like, whatever.
you
But
see
then
it.
you got that one Civic with the underglow
Yeah, you see an EG
and the
hatch and
big
you're like,
wing.
what did this guy do, man? This is crazy. Yeah, you're right. Back to personality. I think, and like I said, I didn't enjoy it as much when it didn't have an actual effect on the car. If you had a rear wheel drive and a spoiler, if it was actually doing something, great. Now, if you were looking for something to do because it was your personality and it was something the way you wanted to wrap up the car, that's a different kind of respect because it's your car, man.
Yeah.
It's your personality in this, nuts and bolts form, in this steel shape it is. So I think the main thing when I go into these big wings and body kits, it was mainly for function, or was it for the fantasy? Was it for the culture? Most cars didn't need aero, but
Mhm.
looking fast kind of mattered sometimes more than being fast. Was it brand name kits that mattered the most? Was okay? If you saw a car with a clean fitment of a body kit
Okay.
versus an ugly fit, you could see the Bondo spots. You could see it wasn't sanded down before it painted.
Mhm.
Clean fit equaled some mad street respect.
That's true.
You went
Yeah.
up to a meet with some nice body kit, you rolled in slow, you made sure you didn't scratch, it was installed nice, you took the time, the effort, the blood, sweat, and tears, because you did have tears if you installed an old school body kit, and you enjoyed the time with it. you had that respect. Your people
Yeah.
were like, "Man, how'd you get that fitment so clean?" They would ask questions, you could give pointers, but all I know is a bad fitment ruined everything. But I mean,
Yes.
let me ask you this. How big is too big on a spoiler?
How big is too big? So there's two sides of me. There's the technical side, and then there's just the this looks dumb or
Yeah.
cool side. So from a technical side, I'm sure we can calculate, based on downforce and the type of car and blah
Of
blah blah.
course, of course.
But on the other side of things, just anything personally above the roof line of your car, that's too big.
So anything extending above the roof line is just too much for you.
Do you even know of any cars that have spoilers that go that high, other than actual race cars?
Oh, man.
Like, we think about, like, the Evos and the STIs, they have some pretty big
Yeah.
spoilers, but I don't think they're that
I
big,
I
though.
I haven't even seen any ducktails, dovetails, anything like that that were that high. I mean, the only thing I can think of is if I'm thinking of like the GT3 RS, if I'm thinking of like
Mhm.
even the GT3s have some nice carbon fiber ones that you can add on aftermarket.
Yeah.
But those cars would need it.
They're
They're
functional. Yeah.
functional rear wheel drive, rear engine, or excuse me, mid engine cars,
Mhm.
rear engine, whatever you want to say. But I mean, that's the question. Like nobody had that limit. It was like, how big was too big? I'm just gonna send it.
I
I'm just gonna
I'm just
send it.
gonna be as
I'm gonna click
visible as possible, right?
I'm gonna click this
That's how
really
it was.
crappy picture on eBay, and I'm gonna go, you know what? We're just screwed in when it gets here because what did body kit mean to me after I installed one? Commitment, because the screws or the pins going into that
Mhm.
thing, like you never want it off again. Because as soon as it fell off, one piece broke. You were in a corner going, now I have to do this all over again.
Mhm.
It was bold. I give it credit where credit is due. If you had the personality, you installed it, you did all the tough work, you enjoyed it, and it would look clean. Dude, that's bold. Like you took the time, you did that. That's some respect coming my way. And you know what? For the guys that do it the big style, there's no fear of judgment coming from me. Like they were just like, it's on. I did it. Whatever.
Mhm.
My car. My thing is like big wings and body kits. I feel like was an album title back in the 90s. Look
That
at
probably
big
was.
wings
Yeah.
and body kicks. Any of our local Florida artists want to make a song about it? Please do comment heat soaked. We definitely love it. But I want to hear the song. I'll even sing on it for you. But they weren't about blending in. It's about commitment and standing out.
Yes.
That's what it was. That's what I like that style about, man.
A lot of things in that era was about standing out.
For sure, man. I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier, and I kind of brought it up while I was talking. Like, what do you think about the like sending it? What do we do all this for? What do we do the underglow for? What do we do these big body kits? These big wings and body kits. We go to car meets
Yes.
because what do we not have then? We didn't have YouTube back in the 90s. That wasn't really a thing. How did we figure out how to fix a part? Forums.
Yeah.
We're trying to search that world wide web that no one knows what www means anymore. But it was car meets, man. And I think I was gonna ask you, what was your memory? What was the culture like at the car meets that you were at?
Yeah. So first, it's about showing up and showing out, right? Like you gotta have a presence there, and the way to do it is with your car.
Absolutely, absolutely.
My fondest memories of going to car meets back in those times were, like you had stated earlier, there's just a lot of showy body kits,
Yep.
a lot of underglow, a lot of nice decals, like very nicely painted cars as well. Um, what cracks me up is the one car that shows up that's like all black, but the front bumper is white, and it's like, an aftermarket bumper
Aftermarket
with
bumper.
like
He has a
they were trying to get the kit, but they just or they just couldn't piece it together. But come on, man, you should have just waited until you got everything
you
and then
should
put
have
it on.
and then put it on.
Don't put on just the front bumper.
Listen, I'm not the only one that gets excited when an Amazon package gets to my door. I have to open it immediately. You don't think I would have done that back then? Like, you're crazy. I would have opened it up, tried to get it on my car, realized I just lost 3 bolts to my front bumper, and then been like, you know what? This thing's going on today.
Oh,
Right?
and then
Like,
you find out like your front bumper sits like 3 inches lower than
yeah,
the side of
and
your car.
all the trimming it
Yeah.
required from the brush tool and all the. You're right. You're right. It was part of that fact when you saw that guy roll up, but still, like,
He was still brave enough to show up to that meet though. Yeah.
Exactly, man. Like it's that guy, right? He was still brave enough to show up to the meet, and of course he's gonna walk around, check out the other cars, look at them. He might even ask a question or two, and I think that brings us back to this cool, really awesome thing we get to talk about, which is the car community.
Mhm.
It's one of our favorite things. It's how people help people, and it's why we really enjoy what we do. It's yeah, we love cars. Could we be alone doing it? I mean, yeah, we could, but I really love driving with friends. I really love going, "Hey, did you hear that?" Like when, something pins through or a piston shoots through my hood. "Did you see that?" "No, I didn't. I'm still driving." "Oh, well, not anymore." So things like that, it's who do we have to share with this? And it's just like, I mean, it goes all the way to the roots of life. Like, who do we have to share with this life? Who do we have to really teach? Who do we have to, ask? And I think that's what's really cool about these car meets is that guy with that white bumper, that shitty car could show up and people might give him some life-changing advice or go, "Hey, you know what? Let me get your number." And of course, back then we were like, "All right, let me get my house phone." Like,
Yeah.
because I still remember my house phone number at the end of the day. I'm just being honest because back then we had no likes, you didn't have
Mhm.
algorithms. Respect was earned in person. It
Yeah.
was a handshake and it was meeting. It was having to go out and meet these guys who had their, we thought they had their stuff together because their car was together, and it was if your car wasn't seen, it didn't exist.
Yeah.
That's what I really enjoyed about it.
It was
But
very much a reflection of you as a person in
100%.
all ways too. So if your car is rinky dink floating down the street, like half of your underglow works,
Yeah.
it is a reflection of you. Like this dude doesn't really take care of his car. And then you
Yeah.
got the guy who comes up with like the clean ass car, like a nice Civic, but he has everything put together. It's
Mhm.
all he's at the meet and he has towels out polishing the thing.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
that guy really is committed to it.
Well, it was like a good relationship, the pull up actually method, not the pull out method. The pull up to the meat actually mattered because like you pop the hood, trunk's open. If you got your sound system in the trunk, like
Mhm.
that was the jam. If you had everything all set up, but it was like late nights, like long conversations, in the cold, in the sweltering heat. You're talking to guys you don't even know getting numbers, trying to look for girl things like that, but
Yeah.
that was all the culture because that's what it was. Like we were there to enjoy cars together. But there was those rules, right? You didn't touch cars without talking to the owner. You
Mhm.
always made sure you paid attention. You respected those clean bills. Those are always the guys I would go to ask for information. "Hey man, this looks fantastic. Can I ask you a few questions?" Like,
Yeah.
"Hey, how did you do this? What did you do to, get this manufactured? Where did you find it? Or how did you piece it together?" And usually it was those guys that had those connections that really helped other people. Like,
Mhm.
"Hey, how do I get my exhaust to hit this note? I don't really want to sound ricey, right? I
Yeah.
don't want to sound like shit. I want to actually hit a note." And he's like, "Oh, dude, do what everyone else isn't doing. Get a resonator." And
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh, didn't even think of that. I just went, full catless and thought this is the greatest thing since, I bought a trumpet." So,
Mhm.
but you never get those experiences if you never went to the car meets
Yeah.
and you didn't understand that, representation of yourself mattered. I could pull up in a piece of crap, but the fact that I pulled up and started talking to people was a lot better than actually having nothing and just sitting at home.
Yeah.
That's what I really believe, like, talking about culture. Culture is the car meets. If you didn't go, you missed out a lot, and I think that's what I miss a lot, and I love the fact that here in Orlando, we get to really look at these here in Florida, we get to really look at all these car meets. A bunch of them get shut down. I think there was one the other day in Orlando,
Mhm.
a full garage got shut down. I guess the owner of the garage, some BS happened. I was watching, but I could be wrong. But it's the car meets that are still happening. It was organic.
Yeah.
It was unfiltered. It belonged to the drivers. Like we would meet up in an Arby's parking lot, and the employees would be like, "What's happening right now?" And so one guy'd go in, be like, "Hey man, I hope you don't mind if we all just park around here." Or just like a closed Winn Dixie or a closed Publix.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people that did that, it was good times. And
Yeah.
some people,
Car clubs were really a big thing back then
yeah,
too, right? And to your point, car meets still happen today. Car clubs still happen
correct,
today,
correct.
but it felt like the origins of it were really, really heavy in that era.
Absolutely.
And we're talking because we grew up in that era.
Mhm.
Of course, there are car guys from the '60s, from the '70s, from the '80s. They probably are
Uh,
saying the same thing.
Correct. They had the same exactly, the same kind of, representation when it comes
But
to car
each
meat.
era is a little different. They have their own unique, defining characteristics.
Mhm.
And for our era, it was everything that we said, the body kits, the underglow, the
Absolutely.
graphics, the chrome
Absolutely.
wheels, the sound system. But you had mentioned it earlier. You used the term forums, and I really want to get into forums because that was a really big thing. That was the early days of social media, so
Absolutely.
that was before your Facebooks, your Instagrams, and even really before your YouTubes. We used forums
Yep.
to learn how to fix things on our cars. We
Absolutely.
used forums to actually set up car meets.
Yeah. How to find them, like,
Mhm.
unless you ever came across them, you had to learn how to find them. That was old school, man. That
It
was like, Grassroots Motorsports was one
Yeah.
of them. Final Gear, Reddit. Yeah, Reddit had
Reddit
some
is a
stuff.
form
Reddit had
of
an
a
old
car
school one, Reddit,
forum,
yeah.
but back then there were a lot of very specific car forums.
That's correct.
I remember when I was driving just a regular old Mazda 3, it was like a 2008 Mazda 3, it wasn't anything special, but I actually had joined, like, the Mazda 3 forums
Yeah,
and then learned how to do a lot of stuff based on that forum.
yeah.
But forums like that existed. There's tons of forums nowadays that are just mostly archives, just because everybody sort of doesn't use the internet the same way anymore.
No, no.
But
There's no research involved, and,
mhm,
like well, I mean, like, so you had your Mazda 3, like, of course, like any Spanish child, we are gifted a Honda, and, it's just a natural thing, like, you know how we're, like, gifted crosses and stuff from our
yeah.
families? We're just gifted Hondas. It's like a growing up procedure in Spanish culture. Don't know how to explain it further. It's just this weird thing. We go, we pray, and then a Honda. Like, we get baptized, we go, and then and that's it. That was so we had to. You either had stayed in that or got out of that. But you're right. Forums really helped you. Sorry, I didn't mean to side note, but it's true, man. It's true. But forums helped us really understand because going back to car meets and car forums, it wasn't really about the meets. It wasn't the meets weren't about cars, they were about people
Right.
and learning, and the forums helped you find that, but you actually had to dive in, didn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, explain a little bit about that. People might not realize
Well,
what you actually had to do
yeah,
to get
so
to that.
you actually had to go and find forums yourself. And this is a little different than today's day where if you're on Instagram, the algorithm kind of feeds you information. Back
Correct.
then, if I owned a Honda Civic, I needed to go out of my own way to find other people that had Civics.
You're absolutely
So
right.
it was going on forums online, it was going to car shows, it was just driving around town and seeing another guy that had a Civic with rims and knowing that, oh, that's not a stock Civic. That guy is actually into cars because he modified it to some extent.
Mhm.
Let's go and talk to that guy.
Yeah, like
Um,
running into them at fast food
yeah,
joints. Yeah, yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, so the connection that people had back
Mhm.
then, was much different in the sense that the way people reached out to one another, it took a different level of communication, right?
Yes.
Like
That's a
nowadays
good
we
point.
have the internet and it's so easy to just comment on somebody's Instagram post and be like, "That's a cool looking car, bro."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like you never meet the guy, but all of that's there for you, but back then you actually had to seek it out.
100%. You had to do the work to actually get that information. Plus, I mean, if anyone posted a picture of the car, it looked like a potato because, like,
Yeah.
nothing, none of our, like, nothing was that great to be able to post and upload that back then. Like, it took 3 days. You would, yeah, full work week sometimes to upload
Mhm.
one single photo. So you go from there. But I mean, if you're right, I think that was a great point. Is you had to seek out the information, and the World Wide Web it was a tool for us to use where we had to put the work in to find the information, gather it, and then bring it back to actually find other people to learn more.
And you
So
can arguably say that it creates a stronger bond
Oh,
in the
dude,
sense that, like,
j
because you have to go
absolutely.
out of your way to do this, like,
Yeah.
these are other people going out of their way also.
100%. Yeah, no, I mean, I was gonna say 100%, but that just means you're so correct and on the money, with that term, but it's also, like, the bonds you would build at a car meet. Like, I still know somebody that I met at a car meet. He had a
Mhm,
spooned, Honda that he was working on, and I was like, "Oh, man, this is cool." Like, this is and still to this day, I know the guy. And
yeah,
it's pretty amazing that those bonds they were stronger. The information you learned was just so much more in depth. You learned about people, you learned about cars, you just got to really enjoy yourself because I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, it's you really got a stronger bond with other people, but
mhm,
that just blossomed because you're able to now repost on that forum, share that information. And I think that meant a lot to me back then because I didn't have a lot of information. So if I knew something anybody else didn't know that I learned, I was like, everyone's got to hear about this.
mhm,
And I
yeah,
would post, and then people would be like, "Oh, hey, thanks. That really helped me out in a tough situation." You're like, "Man, that made somebody's life." Nowadays it's all there's a million, billions, trillions of videos about everything, about finding parts, some fake, some real, some now AI's taking over the world. Now you don't know if you're talking to a real person or AI anymore. But back then it was you're right, it was a verbal connection. It was you handshaking, you seeing eye to eye, going back to the dude's place who had a parts car, turn wrench on it a couple times, and dude, like, he served you pizza and beer or, a check, like, if you
yeah.
kinda had
I
it.
think those bonds were easy to develop, to
Yeah,
deepen back then,
yeah.
and today you can still create those bonds.
Mhm.
You have Reddit out there, you have Instagram. You there's Our social media today is a lot more connected than it was back then. There's a lot
100%.
more information that floats around out there, but at the same time, because information is so easy to access,
Yeah,
it doesn't allow you to really sit down with a person or a group of people and just talk about it and
yeah,
kind of like bounce ideas and digest everything each other says because as you know in today's age we're flipping to
yeah.
the next thing like just like that, right?
It's
Like everyone has
they
ADHD or
call it the doom scroll, right?
yeah.
Like, so it's like, I mean, think about it like this, like back in the Wild West, right? And I'm gonna make this funny example, but it's like they had wanted posters and they were on bulletin boards. Well, we had car things online, which was those forums, and they were bulletin boards. It was
Hmm.
like, hey, meet going out at Winn Dixie 7:30 on Saturday. Be there or be lame.
Yeah,
It was it was funny stuff like that, and you're like, "Okay," and then the people that you meet at these places, you're like, "Hey, we're gonna go to the next one, you guys wanna come with us, or we're gonna go to the one in the next town over, or
yeah,
2
you'd get a
towns,
little mini cruise that same meet,
you're gonna
right?
go to Atlanta, we're gonna do this." It's
Hmm.
like, "Oh, that's really cool because 'cause you're right, it's like so, like, to your point, Underglow, like, made sure you were seen, like, big wings and body kits, can't wait for the album, alright? Made sure you were remembered, right? And car mates made sure you were noticed, like, you made sure you weren't alone, and that's what I really, like, enjoyed about that '90s car culture that I couldn't get enough of, you know what I mean?
Sure. So how does that play into today's car culture then?
You know what? I think some of those so I think of it like when you speak about a tree, like everyone speaks about like family trees and like you set down roots here and things like that. You hear in the old country songs, right? Set down roots, the
Hmm.
family. I think that the seeds that we planted back then or that were planted by people before us
Hmm.
that we kind of inherited, for example, I think they've grown into like a nice forest. If I were to use like an image or describe it, because I think that we have a amount of car culture enthusiasts that are still around to this day. Yeah, it might be newer. Yeah, it's a different style, but guess what? We're still using underglow. We're still
we're,
changing
we're
our
bringing
big
that back.
yeah, we're still changing our big wings and body kits, and we're still meeting up. So there, and you know what's crazy is like we talk about these '90s and these 2000s as our favorite because that's where we grew up, but it's those are the cars that are most sought after People are looking for those cars. When people see that, we used to be like when an old classic or a muscle car pulled up, we'd be like, "Oh, that guy's not part of it. He's part of this different group." But that's a cool car. We'd ask questions, and usually they just grumble out with a cigarette and go, "Oh yeah, V8." Like, that's a V8 boy. Like, and so, but it's. I think it's fun. I think it's the torch was passed on, and some guys are still out there doing the same thing, and that's what I appreciate. There's guys like us using YouTube, going out, having podcasts, talking about cars, really just spreading the word, and I think that's enjoyable for me. Like, I love ingesting, videos about people learning, right? It's just something that I've always really enjoyed. So when I see guys like, I mean, I'm gonna do some shout outs and use some examples, but you see Adam LZ, like he started out with his car, his 240, he built it up. Now he's, doing his own thing out here in Florida. Cletus McFarland, he started out small. They all started out somewhere. So I think that's important to me. And that's kind of like, well, that kind of our inspiration here. Like, it's something that when I see somebody struggling or starting out, it's something that we always help with. Like, I mean, we've helped jump cars out in parking lots and talk to
Mhm.
people about, just because of our slight knowledge, it doesn't mean we're going to go into it, but we use it to help. We never use it to, I guess, bombard. And I think the torch is now past our generation to help this next generation who's all driving Teslas and their dad's, cars or something like that. But it's for our generation, for the kids who grew up a little bit like us. They have to buy their own car. They're gonna get a POS or a Hoop D, and they're gonna
Yeah.
see this. But it's why we love it, man. It's why we wrench down here. We love the time to ourselves, the time to think. We love taking things apart, putting it back together, and then if it fails, taking it apart again. I
Mhm.
think that's important to me, but I think to a lot of others as well.
Yeah,
In my humble opinion,
you're
that's it.
totally right. It's about the community. You described it perfectly. And as we kind of talk about the 90s and 2000s era, that was just a point in time within the whole car community as a whole. We mentioned it. Cars have been around for a very long time. We mentioned the 60s, the 70s, the 80s,
Absolutely.
90s, 2000s, and then beyond today's community.
Yep.
But the one common theme is that it's just involves
Yeah.
people talking about cars. In the 90s and 2000s, it was specific to sound systems, underglow,
Mhm.
etc. In the current generation, it's gonna be about EVs and other stuff that I have no idea about,
Yeah.
but
My
if it
my
brings people to
nightmare,
yeah,
like
if it brings people together to talk about cars, to
Yeah,
hang out, and just, um, continue that tradition,
yeah.
like, it doesn't really matter what they're really talking about.
That's true. I mean, we're still gonna show up with our internal combustion engines,
Yeah,
but it's like, okay, all the people who are the philosophers, they always ask you, what will you be remembered by? What will you leave behind to the next generation? And I hope it's the information that there's always other people out there to help you, and I hope the car culture understands that's what I learned from. That's where I grew up, learning from people who had no business teaching, but were trying to do the right thing. And I think that's what we're missing a lot of these days, is that, the right thing is not really, it's a gray area now.
yeah,
And we don't know it anymore. But do we know what helping others is? Yeah. What are we going to leave to that next generation? What are we going to leave to our kids? Our grandkids and stuff like that. Hey, I hope it's a car. I hope it's a nice, fast car that, guess what? I'm gonna break 6 things on, and it's gonna be major things, and I'm gonna make sure they fix it.
yeah,
Because you ain't driving a car that I built without having to fix it. No. No, that's just me messing around, man. But I would like, my nieces, my nephews, my, kids, all of them to learn a really good skill, something that if you're ever broke down on the side of the road and you need help, it's something to know. It's something to help others with. You're right, back to people. It always circulates around, cars are the epitome of what your style is, but it's back to, everything's about people and taking care of that community. And that's why we're that's why we're
yeah,
here for.
yeah, for sure.
That's why we do this podcast. That's why Heat Soaked was important to us, and that's why you keep hearing me talk about it.
Yeah, that's why we're friends.
I appreciate it. I don't know how, but I was like, "You wanna do what with me? You wanna hear me talk? I don't even like hearing myself talk. This is awkward."
We're here, so get used to it.
I just had to take you out with that, but yeah, man, I think that's what it is. What is it to you? Do you have any insight on it?
Honestly, it was everything that we discussed, and we can go so much deeper with this,
Absolutely.
but we would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Like we said before, this is a podcast that we're doing together, but we want really for all of you to be part of it.
Absolutely. Like we're gonna ask our viewers or our listeners, tell us how you got into cars. Tell us why cars are important to you. Leave a comment, subscribe. Heat soaked. We're down here in Orlando. It's cold right now, but we're hoping to see you guys one of these days. Maybe do one of these car meets. And hey, you never know. At the end of the day, we might have a garage one of these days where we can pass that stuff down. But it's just another episode. But once again, guys, we appreciate you guys' time. Appreciate you listening. Actually, listen to me rant. I don't know how you did it, but you survived. Uh, thank you again. Leave that comment, get that subscribe, guys, and have
Yep,
an awesome night.
at Heat Soaked FL.
Heat soaked FL. Thanks, guys.